For decades, there's been this hidden war raging right in India's heartland. And no, it's not a conflict with another country. It's a battle within its own borders, a battle really fueled by this intense struggle over land, resources, and identity. This is a story of left-wing extremism, what's often called India's war within.
And this brings us to the central, really baffling question. The very parts of India that are richest in natural resources, we're talking coal, bauxite, iron ore, are also the epicenters of this long drawn-out insurgency. So how can so much wealth exist right alongside so much violence? That's the core question we really need to unpack. See, at its core, left-wing extremism, or LWE, isn't just about some abstract ideology. It's a conflict that's born from a very specific kind of development, one that has for a long time excluded and pushed away the indigenous communities living on that very resource-rich land. It's basically a reaction to a growth story that they were never invited to be a part of. Okay, so let's start by digging into the actual roots of this conflict. What exactly created the perfect conditions for this rebellion to just fester for decades in these incredibly rich lands? Well, it's really a toxic mix of 5 key things. You've got massive displacement, right? Where entire tribal communities are uprooted for big projects, often with little to no real plan to help them rebuild their lives. This leads to this deep-seated feeling that their own local resources are being taken with zero benefit to them, and the constitutional promises meant to protect them, they often feel like they just exist on paper. All of this gets even worse when there's a serious lack of basic development, and pretty much a total absence of the state. It's the perfect storm for an insurgency. And if you want to put a number on this resource conflict, get this. A staggering 90% of India's bauxite and 80% of its coal reserves are located right in these LWE-affected areas. I mean, we're talking about immense national wealth sitting directly underneath the feet of the conflict zone. And that feeling of alienation, it's incredibly powerful when you see mines and dams being built without any local consent, when the compensation for land is terrible, and when the jobs all go to outsiders. A really potent story emerges that the state and big corporations are there to exploit, not to help. And the Maoists, well, they are masters at tapping into that deep-seated anger. And here's the kicker. Where the state is absent, the Maoists step right in. They create their own parallel systems of governance, of justice. So when people can't go to a local government office for help, the Maoists offer their Jan Adalets, or people's courts. They literally fill the void left by a failing state, and that becomes their single most powerful recruiting tool. So, how in the world does a government respond to a problem that's so deeply rooted? Well, the strategy has had to evolve into something much more comprehensive. It's not just about force anymore. It's way more complex than that. At the core of the government's current strategy is something called the SAMADHAN doctrine. Now, it's an acronym for this holistic 8-part framework. It stands for things you might expect, like smart leadership and an aggressive strategy. But what's absolutely crucial here is that it's not just a security plan. It specifically includes action on development and cutting off their financing. That's a huge acknowledgement that you can't just fight your way out of this problem. You have to build your way out, too. And this is where that action on development really comes to life. You've got these initiatives designed to win hearts and minds by tackling the root causes we just talked about. We're talking about building schools and roads, offering extremists a path to surrender, and even using security forces to build trust through civic projects, not just through combat. All right, so the big question, of course, is, has any of this actually worked? Let's take a look at the real impact on the ground. And the results of this combined approach, well, they've been pretty dramatic. Back in 2014, the conflict was active across 126 districts in India. Today, that number has been slashed to just 18. That represents a massive, massive reduction in the geographical footprint of the violence. Let's just put that in a single powerful figure. That's an 85% decrease in the number of affected districts since 2014. It's a really clear sign that the combination of security pressure and a focus on development is having a major effect. And we've got specific models for this success. Look at Andhra Pradesh, where the elite Greyhounds force showed just how effective precision, intelligence-led security operations can be. Or in Jharkhand, the Surround a Forest plan demonstrated a different model, a clear hold-build strategy, where security forces first cleared an area, which then allowed development to come in and actually take root. But look, shrinking the map isn't the end of the war. The tactical victories are absolutely crucial, but the final battle, that's for something much more fundamental.
It's about winning the trust of the people.
And what that really means is the path forward is about shifting from just managing the conflict to truly resolving it. And that takes genuine governance reforms that actually empower local tribal councils. It takes development that includes the community from the start. And it takes security forces that are seen as protectors. This whole thing is about building a future, not just ending a fight.
And this is really what it all comes down to, isn't it? The end game isn't just about getting to zero violence. It's about finally fulfilling the nation's foundational promises of justice, of equity, and of dignity for all its citizens, especially those who have been left behind for way too long. So, after looking at all of this, the causes, the strategy, the results, what's the single most important thing to take away from this whole story? It's this. True victory in this long, painful war won't be measured by the number of rebels neutralized or districts cleared from a map. It'll be measured by a simple change in perception. When the people at the very heart of this conflict finally see the state not as a threat to their way of life, but as its ultimate protector. That is the real final battle.